There are many units in armies. Some of these units are made up of inexperienced simple soldiers. Others consist of specially trained soldiers. These soldiers do not take active part in every operation and every war because it takes a long time to train them. In addition, their training is very costly. Even the loss of one of these soldiers causes both financial loss and loss of time. It may take years to train specially trained soldiers. During the Russia-Ukraine war, we witnessed the destruction of a large number of Russian soldiers. Russian Special Forces soldiers were also destroyed. The vast majority of them were destroyed in the battlefields. However, there has been a very remarkable developments in recent, especially trained Russian pilots, which are of a critical importance for an army, faced a major sabotage attempt. What are the details of the sabotage attempt against Russian soldiers? Let's take a look at the developments together. As the pioneer, we continue to convey the Russia-Ukraine war to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the video. Let's start if you're ready. The pioneer reports. Recently, Russian sources shared a very remarkable claim with the public. As you know, the Russian army has been carrying out important offensive activities around Avdiivka in recent days. The Russian army has a very limited progress in these attacks activities. Behind this limited progress is the Russian Air Force. In other words, without the support of the Russian Air Force, it is not possible to say that the Russian infantry units would make progress, albeit limited. As a result of the bombardment by the Russian Air Force, Russian infantry units have the opportunity to advance. Pilots who will serve in the Air Force of an army can find the opportunity to serve by passing very difficult stages and meeting the conditions. In other words, the training process of pilots is quite long. Elite people can serve as fighter pilots. The loss of fighter pilots is a big problem. Recently, a very critical sabotage attempt was carried out against Russian fighter pilots who will serve in the Russian army. It is claimed that approximately 77 Russian fighter pilots were poisoned during the sabotage attempt. The sabotage attempt in question took place at the graduation ceremony of Armavir Flight School in Krasnodar Krai. The ceremony was attempted by former graduates of the school. There was a large crowd at the ceremony organized for the 20th anniversary of the graduation of the former graduates. A large cake was prepared to be served in this crowd and the graduates. However, those who brought the cake to the area where the graduation ceremony was to be held and those who ate this cake did not know that the cake was poisonous. The cake was poisoned. 77 of the Russian fighter pilots present at the ceremony were poisoned by eating this cake. Perhaps the number may be even higher, but so far Russian sources claim that only 77 fighter pilots have been poisoned. So who poisoned the cake? Russian sources do not know the answer to this question either, but there is one group they accuse: the Ukrainian sabotage groups. Could Ukrainian sabotage groups really have carried out such an assassination? Of course, there is this possibility. Ukrainian sabotage groups have carried out critical sabotage activities against the Russian army many times before. Ukrainian sabotage groups were often behind critical assassinations. However, there is an issue here that should not be overlooked. Russian sources are trying to overlook this issue. However, this issue is as critical as the Ukrainian sabotage group. This is the Russian sabotage group. As you know, a large part of the Russian population is deeply disturbed by the President Vladimir Putin's plans to invade Ukraine. We have seen the reflections of this discontent many times, even during the coup attempt of Wagner group leader Prigozhin. Many Russian people supported the Wagner group. Another striking detail was the Free Russian Legion, which was formed by the Russian citizens and fought in the ranks of the Ukrainian army. This legion, consisting of Russian citizens, was fighting against Russia. This legion was also active during the cross-border operations. We know that Russian sabotage groups have many times attacked the supply lines of the Russian army, critical warehouses, railways, power stations, administrative buildings, and many other points within the borders of the Russian Federation. We have even encountered the unexpected death of some Putin supporters within the borders of the Russian Federation. When these events were taking place, they were the only ones that came to mind, that is, the Russian sabotage groups. Contrary to the Russian sources, we believe that this attack was carried out by the Russian sabotage group. However, Russian citizens who can move freely within Russia and work in the preparations of cakes for the Russian flight to school may have carried out this attack of poisoning. An external intervention seems less likely. However, of course, we cannot rule out the possibility that the Ukrainian sabotage groups may have carried out such an attack. Clear data on the health status of the Russian fighter pilots were not shared. However, according to the information we have obtained from local sources, the condition of some of the pilots is quite serious. Russian official sources have still not made statements on the subject. We no longer deny this situation because the Russian official sources have preferred to remain silent many times in the similar situations. However, after this silence, the facts emerged. The claims of the Russian unofficial channels were mostly true. We will continue to follow the situation. We will inform you about the developments in the coming days. Developments in Russia are not limited to this. As you know, there is a tradition in Russia. The death of names who have held critical positions in the Russian Federation in previous years are always shady. Official sources usually claim that these deaths occurred as a result of falling from the building or due to the prolonged illness. A similar situation happened again. Igor Puzanov, former foreign minister and first deputy defense minister of the Russian Federation, died recently at the age of 76. According to the Russian sources, Puzanov died after a long illness. The Kremlin did not make statements about Puzanov's death. According to local sources, Russian leader Vladimir Putin's policies were criticized by Puzanov in recent days. Therefore, local sources claim that there is a suspicion of foul play in Puzanov's death. However, as we mentioned, these are still allegations. We anticipate that we will have more information about Puzanov's death in the coming days. So what do you think? Do you think Ukrainian sabotage groups poisoned Russian fighter pilots? Could Russian sabotage groups have a connection with this issue? How do you think these events affect Russian aviation? Can this be considered as a security weakness? Do you think there is any suspicions in Puzanov's death? Is it possible to talk about the assassination of the Puzanov? What do you think about the Russian leader's silence in recent days? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.